You already planted today, you just didn't see the seed leave your hand. Every assumption you held about yourself, every private thought you fed on while brushing your teeth, every quiet verdict about whether you're the kind of person who wins, that was a seed going into the ground. And the ground always answers. The problem is the ground answers on its own schedule, and that gap between the planting and the harvest is where almost everyone quits. By the end of this, you'll understand that delay so precisely that you'll stop misreading it as failure. Walk it back to the oldest version of this law. A farmer drops a single grain into the dirt and then does something that looks insane to a modern mind, addicted to instant feedback. Nothing. He waits. The grain disappears. For weeks, the field looks identical to the field of the guy who planted nothing at all. Same brown dirt, same silence. If you judged the two farmers by what your eyes could see in week 1, you'd call them equal. They were already worlds apart. That invisible stretch has a name in the old text, and it's worth borrowing. Whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. People read it as a threat about morality. Read it as physics. It's describing the time-release mechanism between a cause you set in your mind and a result that shows up in your hands. The cause is invisible, the result is undeniable. Between them sits a season nobody can skip. So why does the season exist at all? Why can't the harvest land the second you plant? Because manifestation isn't a vending machine, and the delay is the feature that makes the whole thing trustworthy. Picture if every fleeting thought instantly became matter. One bad morning, one spiral of doubt, and your entire life rearranges into a disaster by lunch. The delay is mercy. It's a buffer that filters your passing moods from your persistent assumptions. The seed that grows is the one you plant again and again, the belief you return to, the identity you keep feeding. A single anxious thought rots in the soil before it can root. The thought you marry, the one you rehearse until it feels boring and obvious, that one breaks the surface. This is the part that wrecks people building something real. You start the project, you make the decision about who you are now, the person who ships, who trains, who creates daily. For the first stretch, the world hands you nothing back. Your following stays flat. Your body looks the same in the mirror. Your bank balance ignores you. And your mind, starved for proof, whispers that it isn't working. It is working. You're standing in the field in week 1, staring at brown dirt, mistaking the season for the verdict. Here's where the metaphor gets surgical. A seed doesn't reproduce itself one-to-one. You bury one kernel of corn and dig up hundreds. The return is multiplied, and that multiplication is the entire reason the waiting is survivable. Nature deals in increase. The same law that makes the delay feel unfair is the law that makes the payoff enormous. Think about what that means for the work you're actually doing. The skill you grind in private for 6 months with zero applause, that compounds. The reps stack, the connections between them multiply, and one day the thing that felt impossible flows out of you without effort. The audience you built one boring post at a time hits a threshold and starts growing while you sleep. You planted in addition, you reap in multiplication. But multiplication has a blade on both sides, and this is where most people quietly sabotage themselves. The field doesn't audit your seeds for quality, it multiplies whatever you give it. Plant resentment, rehearse the story that the game is rigged and people like you never make it, water it daily with evidence, and the ground returns that to you 100-fold too. It will hand you a life crammed with proof that you were right to give up. The soil is loyal, not loving. It says yes to everything. Which means your mental diet stopped being a soft self-help suggestion the moment you understood this. It's the literal seed selection for the only field you'll ever farm, your own consciousness. So watch what you keep replaying. The random intrusive thought, you can't police every flicker, and you don't need to. Watch the thought you return to when you're bored in line, the narrative you reach for in the shower, the assumption underneath your reactions. That repetition is you walking the rows, dropping the same seed over and over. You're already farming. The only question is whether you're doing it on purpose. Now sit with the delay differently, because this reframes the hardest months of any build. The gap between sowing and reaping is alive. Underground, the seed is breaking open. Roots are spreading where no eye can confirm them. The plant builds the architecture it needs before it dares show a single leaf, because a sprout without roots gets killed by the first hard wind. Nature front-loads the invisible work. It builds the foundation in the dark, then the visible growth comes fast and looks like an overnight miracle to everyone who wasn't there for the rooting. You've watched this happen. Someone blows up out of nowhere. The creator who suddenly has everyone's attention. The founder whose thing is suddenly everywhere. Out of nowhere is a lie the audience tells itself. They arrived during the harvest and missed the 3 years of rooting in silence. The overnight success is the most rooted plant in the field, which raises the question that decides everything. What do you do during the dark months, when there's no leaf yet and no proof? You tend. A farmer who plants and then digs up the seed every week to check on it kills the harvest with his own impatience. And that's exactly what doubt is. It's digging up the seed. Every time you abandon the assumption, restart from scratch, swap the identity because results were slow, you're yanking the root out of the soil to inspect it, then shoving it back and wondering why nothing grows. The discipline isn't planting. Anyone can plant on a motivated Monday. The discipline is leaving it in the ground through the boring Tuesdays when faith feels stupid and the dirt looks dead. This is the inner work the soft version of manifestation never mentions. Living in the end is a vibe to most people. To you, it's the brutal practice of acting from the harvest while your eyes still show you the empty field. It's training when your body hasn't changed. It's creating when nobody's watching. It's carrying yourself like the person who already made it, specifically on the days the evidence mocks you for it. That sustained assumption, held past the point where it's fun, is what roots the seed deep enough to survive the wind. And the multiplication is patient with you here because it asks for return, not perfection. You will have days you plant garbage, you'll spiral, you'll doubt, you'll feed the wrong story for an afternoon. The field forgives the occasional bad seed because the occasional one rots. What it can't ignore is the seed you keep coming back to. So the work is making sure the thought you marry, the one you plant on repeat, is the one you actually want multiplied across your whole life. There's a detail in the old farming world that makes this land even harder. The grain a farmer plants is the same grain he could have eaten. Every seed in the ground is a meal he chose to give up. That's the real cost of sowing, and it's the cost nobody talks about when they sell you the dream. The energy you pour into the build is energy you could have spent on comfort right now. The night out, the easy scroll, the version of you that just consumes instead of creates. Planting always feels like loss in the moment. You're handing something real and tangible to invisible dirt on the promise of a harvest you can't yet see. That's why most people eat their seed. They take the small immediate pleasure and call it being realistic. And the field of the person who ate his seed and the field of the person who planted it look identical for one season. After that, they never look the same again. Start treating your attention like farmland, because that's precisely what it is. Finite acreage. Every seed you plant takes up room another seed can't use. When you rehearse the worry, you've spent that row. When you feed the assumption that your build is already alive, already working, already done, in the only place it starts, your own mind, you've planted the thing you want 100 times over. There's no neutral ground in you. Empty rows fill with weeds, and weeds are just seeds you didn't choose on purpose. Here's the refrain to carry out of this. You've been taught to chase results, to grab the harvest, to force the outcome with more effort in the visible world. The law works the other way. You plant cleaner, you tend longer, and you trust the multiplication that's baked into the design. Your job ends at the seed and the season. The increase was always the ground's job, and the ground has never once failed to do it. So look at the assumption you've been planting about your life. The one you actually believe at 2 in the afternoon, when no one's around. Not the one you post. That seed is already in the ground. It's already breaking open. It's already deciding your harvest while you read this. Choose the seed like your entire future depends on it, because it quietly already does. Then walk away from the field and let the dark do its work. Stop digging. Stop checking. Stop trading your harvest for a moment's relief from not knowing. The farmer who panics in the silence eats nothing. The one who plants well and holds his nerve through the empty season, he's not lucky when the field finally erupts. He's just the only one who stayed long enough to watch 100 grains answer for the one he buried in the dark. You buried something today. Now go act like you believe the ground is loyal.